As Gerald called the curriculum and instruction meeting for November 2025 to order at 10 p.m. Sorry, I should have waited till she was seated. Just calling to order the meeting at 10 a.m. So first order of business, our C&I agenda today. Did you want to speak to it first before move on to public comment?
I can set that up if you wanted to do the minutes first. Did you want to vote on
Sorry.
the
Yep.
You start with public comment?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I do believe that we have somebody for
One public comment, and I think, I don't have a name, but I have.
George Pullen.
Yeah, come on.
Do you want me to go over there?
Yeah,
To
go
the-
there,
to-
and
yeah.
just a reminder for committees, it's 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Oh, is somebody trying to get in?
There's Alex.
Okay.
Just waiting.
It's okay. Hello.
And your last name again?
Pullen?
Pullen, okay.
P-U-L-L-E-N. I signed in. Good morning, members of the Curriculum Committee, members of the board who may be in attendance, and Dr. Dyson, who hears from everyone and reads this stuff. My name is George Pullen. I'm a Frederick County father of students in the Frederick County Public Schools. I'm here and well outside my comfort zone, dipping into speaking publicly in local government on behalf of my youngest child, a 7th grader at Urbana Middle School. He has assembled, on his own, a large coalition of parents, teachers, and community partners, including over 200 of his classmates who have signed a petition, along with 500 family members. He did this without me, I might add, but he's in school today. For 15 years, FCPS 7th graders at UMS and elsewhere in the community have experienced reading and studying Charles Dickens' classic, A Christmas Carol, or as is sometimes lovingly called, Scrooge, and the magic of a field trip to a live theater. Many kids going for the first time to a theater by seeing A Christmas Carol at the Weinberg Center. This trip this year is gone. Not because the show is canceled. The Weinberg Center is still running the show's school matinees this December as a patron and regular attendee of shows at this 99-year-old cultural gem. I reached out, and their beautiful building and friendly staff are ready and eager to host FCPS students if you let them go. It was canceled because of a new HQIM curriculum designation that is administratively blocking the trip. This is a paperwork problem. This is not a partnership problem or a money problem. This is a bureaucratic technicality that's going to break a 15-year community tradition that enriches our students and supports our local arts. I was told that this is an either-or choice between this and a new trip for 8th graders called Let It Shine. Let It Shine sounds like a wonderful opportunity, but this is a beloved tradition of 7th graders that my son wants to preserve. This is my last 3 sentences. We ask you to direct staff to approve the 7th grade A Christmas Carol trip as a supplemental instructional activity. We also request that policy 500 type 1 outside HQIM designation be provided. And we ask that if it be designated a type 3 supplemental material or required instructional resource under regulation 500-01 that is formally tied back to policy 414 endorsed field trip, or whatever designation experts who know the rules better than I did trying to read them can do to help restore this 15-year-old partnership. I leave process and orders to the experts. I'm here again just representing my son, his petition, the 200 of his classmates, and the 500 of those family members and community members who support this. The theater is ready, the show is on, the children are waiting. Please don't make a bureaucratic designation be the Scrooge that steals Christmas and its tradition. Thank you.
Do we have a copy of your public comment?
I can give you this one. It's got all my weird scratchy notes on it. So you're
We
welcome
have it, the video.
to have it.
I just want to make sure not to lose the information that you provided, that's all.
For our board members, and for Mr. Pullen to hear, I'll just go ahead and say we are aware of this issue.
Okay.
There has been a change in what we call the Smart Series partnership with the Weinberg Center, which is the shows being selected based on the curriculum, and there has been a curriculum change. So we're working through that, and be happy to get back to Mr. Pullen, to the
And I'm happy to
there.
chat with him
Yeah,
out
I
in
was
the
going to
hallway.
do the same thing.
Yeah. So thank you for coming.
Follow it
and
up.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much, I appreciate that. And while you're doing that, then we can.
meet you. Yeah. So you don't want to do it.
Approve the minutes from.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I didn't stutter or stammer too much, right? I
You
don't.
did great.
My last public speaking was probably
Yeah.
so.
Put you back.
No, let's not do that. Let's not do that.
All right, so,
I was just waiting for that.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
same, so we're going to go ahead and approve the meeting minutes from last meeting. Moving on to our agenda.
So today we've got three topics really.
Yes,
So the first one is world languages, and then we're going to hear from our health and physical education team, and then we're going to move into some course guide updates. So just to set the context, we did have, as you know, some shifts in our Department of Curriculum and Instruction, and so actually Miss Caroline Schlegel is our new curriculum specialist for world languages. And so she joined us in July this past summer and has really been going out to schools and getting the lay of the land in terms of the instruction and the programming. And so you're going to hear from her today some kind of a combination of vision work and also current status of our world language programming. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Schlegel.
Great, thank you. Good morning. Again, I am Caroline Schlegel, and I am now the World Language Curriculum Specialist for Frederick County Public Schools. I did serve at Brunswick High School last year, so I was versed in teaching Spanish in FCPS last year, and I come with 18 years of language teaching experience across the state of Maryland. So it's great to be here in this role in FCPS. So we'll go ahead and get on here. Thank you very much. We'll begin with the presentation outcomes for you guys today. We're going to review the World Language Vision, our common values and core beliefs. We're going to take a look at curriculum updates, course enrollment updates, as well as some changes that have come about for Maryland Seal of Biliteracy and our COMAR updates that were approved on August 26th. So first, just want to start with kind of, as Dr. Gull mentioned, giving you an overview of our vision and mission, core values and beliefs for world language here in Frederick County Public Schools. And I wanted to root it in the fact that world language learning is for all learners. And language learning enhances 21st century readiness. It's a global skill that makes every single one of our students better. We have taken a look at proficiency-based curriculum, and so we are really rooting ourselves in the idea that proficiency is the goal, real-world language usage is the goal, and that early and sustained language learning matters in our school system. Our evidence-informed practices ensure that our teachers are using proficiency-based instruction as aligned with ACTFL, and I'll go back to ACTFL actually in proficiency-based instruction. ACTFL is our American Council. It used to stand for American Council of the Teaching of Foreign Languages. It now just is the acronym ACTFL. And it is our world language overseeing body of professional language learning who sets our standards for language teaching and learning. Our evidence-informed practices, it is critical that we are taking a look at our proficiency-based curriculum rooted, so language and culture inextricably linked, and that culture-driven teaching and reflective pedagogy align with everything that we do in our courses. Vertical articulation, we want to ensure that our language learning is succinct and sustained from early learning through AP, IB, and beyond. Because that indeed does enhance 21st century language learning skills and allows students to participate in our global society. And finally, my role here is educator support and ensuring that we have proficiency-based and culture-driven curriculum. My goal is to ensure that we have targeted professional learning that supports high-quality instructional materials, and our teachers understand how to use them, how to implement them, and how to scaffold up to the task for our students so that all students have access to language learning. Along with that, we have our transfer goals. These transfer goals really allow us to drive our curriculum forward. It helps us to ensure that we have long-term goals for our students. These goals show how our students and our curriculum can support, our curriculum can support our students in their careers and their lives. And so you'll see here, we want our students in our world language courses to be able to communicate effectively in real-world situations through purposed, relevant curriculum and meaningful opportunities for learning in their courses. We want our students to be able to interact respectfully with people of diverse cultures. We want them to develop skills for lifelong and personal and professional purposes. Additionally, we want students to be able to use language to access and interpret information from diverse global sources, solve problems, collaborate, and participate in global communities, and become autonomous, goal-directed learners. So, this summer, we had the opportunity to take a look at our Spanish curriculum. And I want to provide you a little bit of an update with regard to what those transfer goals and those core values and belief look like in practice in what we do in curriculum and instruction. And so we had a team this summer that got together and we created all new summative assessments for our world language courses for Spanish 1 through 4 using those ACTFL 2024 proficiency guidelines. They were updated in 2024, so we needed to take a critical look at our curriculum and align it to match the proficiency guidelines. Within that, we've got the FACT framework, which is how we based all of the summative assessments that we created. And so these are common assessments that students are being given that are proficiency-based. Students are answering emails, they're having conversations, they're presenting information. So in those 3 modes of communication you see there, the interpretive mode, we're asking students to be able to understand language, whether it's in print, in viewing and listening. Interpersonal communication is when you're talking to someone else, whether it is in writing or in speaking. And then finally, presentational, which is in writing or speaking, but it's that one-way output for our students. All of those summative assessments are matched with one of those or multiple modes of communication. And they focus on functions and tasks, which is what students are able to do, right? We know that relevancy in curriculum is of paramount importance. Accuracy aligns with the proficiency level of the student. So we have a proficiency scale of novice to distinguished. Where do they fall on that scale, and what descriptors help align what the students are able to do with the output that they're giving us? The context and content, again, goes back to the relevancy of our curriculum and what students are able to produce. And the text type is just the length of the language that the students are able to produce at their given proficiency level. And as I mentioned, we want students to be able to communicate in all 3 modes of communication. Alongside the summative assessments, we wanted to make sure that our teachers were able to score those summative assessments with the same standardized rubric. And so this rubric is serving as a guideline for not just our Spanish curriculum, but all of our spoken language curriculum. And it measures performance against our nationally recognized standards. So we took a critical look at the ACTFL performance descriptors that were updated in 2024, and we looked at Avant Assessment's proficiency rubrics. We looked at what was important to what our students are able to do at their proficiency levels, and we created a series of rubrics that will help teachers align what students are able to do, but also provide scaffolds and feedback to students on how they can move or level up to the next proficiency level. And so we really want to focus on, again, as I mentioned, that real world communication and that authentic communication that brings relevancy to our curriculum. It also gives our students the opportunity to have a transparent roadmap. Here's where you are, and here's where you can go, and here's how we're going to get you there. I think that transparency in learning is really important for our students. We want our kids to take risks. We also want our teachers to take risks, right? We want our teachers to highlight what students can do, right? Give something a try, invest in a new opportunity for kids. And we want to promote consistency and global readiness, and this standardized rubric really helps our teachers normalize the practice across all of our FCPS schools. So the students are getting the same feedback, whether they're at Brunswick High School or Oakdale High School. They're able to progress along that path towards proficiency. Speaking of our schools, our enrollment data. Middle school enrollment, you can see the numbers here, I won't read those to you. You can see by and large Spanish is our language that is primarily taken here in Frederick County Public Schools. Our French courses, and we've seen growth in our Spanish for Bilingual Speakers program, which I think is fantastic. It provides appropriate literacy scaffolds for students in their heritage or native language, and we know that strengthening students' literacy skills in one language strengthens them in all, and that is a goal here for FCPS. Our high school enrollment data, our ASL program is holding strong, and I'm happy to see that because here in Frederick County we have a high population of ASL signers. And so it's great to see the investment in our community in the ASL programs. The elective for exploring Hispanic cultures grew in its enrollment as well. The elective course is offered opposite of health in our high schools, so it's a half-credit elective world language course that allows students to kind of delve into language and culture without having that language piece. The course is taught in English, but it opens their eyes to Hispanic culture and the Hispanic world. Our AP and IB French enrollment, our advanced enrollment is also listed there for this school year. That leads us to the Seal of Biliteracy and our COMAR updates for Seal of Biliteracy. And so the Seal of Biliteracy is an award given to students at graduation. It is an award that recognizes students' proficiency. In Maryland, which is actually different than some of our neighboring states, we require that students obtain intermediate high proficiency in a language. Biliteracy is different than bilingualism in that students need to be able to read, write, listen, and speak the language, whereas bilingual is just being able to speak the language. So this is really a marker of what our students are able to do over the course of their study in FCPS with languages. So students have to meet one of the requirements for the language component and a requirement for the English component in order to earn the Maryland Seal of Biliteracy. According to the new COMAR requirements, a participating local school system who demonstrate students in participating local school systems who demonstrate that proficiency in English and another language earn the Maryland Seal of Biliteracy. And they're allowed to, not allowed to, they earn that seal whether they learn the language in our schools, at home, or in our community. Students have access to this assessment. So we're really affirming students' linguistic heritage and allowing them to celebrate their multilingualism. As I mentioned, they have to meet the Maryland High School English Language Arts or Literacy Assessment. The update to that with COMAR in August was that there are different pathways that align with our college and career readiness. And so students can use the PSAT English score, they can use the SAT English score, they can use the ACT English score in order to meet the English requirement to prove their proficiency in English. And we have a list of Maryland approved assessments for the language component that students can take to prove their intermediate high proficiency. From this point forward, I'm working alongside the multilingual education program to move our what has been a relatively small initiative here in FCPS to a much larger scale so that we can recognize students and their abilities. And so we are establishing guidelines in collaboration with the MEP for systemic implementation of Seal of Biliteracy testing, and we're establishing guidelines for what that looks like in each of our schools so that we can provide that equitable access to our students and the guidance to our teachers on how to implement this procedure with fidelity across the board. This work will help us recognize graduates and their skills, affirm readiness for college and careers, and again, acknowledge students and their multilingual skills. That is all I have for you.
That was great. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You can go first.
Okay. No, that's okay. I love that you're combining the culture and the language and trying to, make sure that when they're learning the language, they're also learning the culture, because language it reflects our culture, right? It's a reflection of culture, and oftentimes, speaking of younger folks with digital devices and now there's new languages of our own language on a digital device. Just out of curiosity, does that even come into play when you're talking, when you're, say, teaching Spanish to students to read and to write, and how that might look differently if they're texting a friend in Spanish, and how different from how it would look? Do you know what I'm saying? Colloquial versus their standard grammar of the.
Sure. I think when we're looking at language, one of the things that's really relevant, I'll speak to Spanish because that's what I know best and taught last year. When we're looking at communicating, when we have a section on technology, there is an opportunity for students to be able to experience what does it look like shorthand text messaging, for example, in Spanish. So providing that relevant opportunity for students to compare their own language and how they communicate with their students, but then also take a look at maybe decoding some of the language that's text speak, for example, as you mentioned. So just opportunities like that come up for students to be able to explore, but given the curriculum, right? So we have to make sure that it's
aligned with the curriculum, yeah. But I was curious how that may, just with an anthropology background, everything is dynamic.
It evolves.
It does. Everything evolves, and as much as we would like it to stay static, the rules change sometimes with grammar and language. So I was curious about that. And then when you talk about the spectrum of accuracy, right, from novice to distinguished, where's I guess explain that just a little bit more for me. I know, for instance, when I needed to find somebody to translate into Portuguese engineering documents, right? That's not going to be just anybody from Brazil necessarily that's got like a background but lives here, because that is a specialized language, right? That's, you know. So what does that spectrum actually look like when we talk about this to distinguish for our students?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So, proficiency in world languages, our novice learners, right, which is typically our level 1 and level 2 learners, they're operating, there are 3 tiers within the novice level. So you've got novice low, novice mid, novice high. And what students can do in those levels varies just a touch, right? So maybe they connect a verb to a subject, maybe they add a little bit more detail. Maybe it's just a list of words. So novice mid, you're looking at maybe lists of words, identifying singular words. Novice high, you might be able to put together a sentence, right, on your own. Now, this is proficiency, right? And so this is not necessarily focusing on what the students are studying in that moment, right? But off the cusp, what can you do in any given situation, right? When you move to intermediate, you're able to put strings of sentences together. Intermediate high, which is where our Maryland Seal of Biliteracy rests, that is pre-paragraph length language, off the top of the head, off the cusp, without any preparation. When you move into the advanced levels, you're attacking a bit more of the academic language, research, argumentative essays, things of that nature.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for explaining that to me. I was curious about that, and I think, for the most part, those are 2 of my biggest questions. There was 88 looking at your numbers, the slide where you had speaking Spanish and how many students are in the different courses, and there was 40, I think it was for ASL, roughly. Is that one teaching, or is that one? How many of our schools have like an ASL option?
So Walkersville High School currently has ASL, TJ High School, Oakdale High School, and I do believe it's offered through FCC dual enrollment as well. But we're hopeful in the coming years that we're able to expand our program offerings.
And then, I've asked this question before, but if anybody were to listen to this recording and they're curious, well, how do we get an ASL class at our school that may not be offering it? My understanding is there needs to first be that interest from the student level, and then sort of what are the steps from there before we can introduce, say, ASL or another language, or Chinese or Mandarin to.
I think maybe the course guide might be able to help with that.
Yes.
So it really is student-driven. So if there's student demand, then we do everything in our power to be able to staff that. And so we work collaboratively with our principals and make sure that we can figure out if there is demand, then we're going to figure out how to staff it. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
So just to follow up on that, right now, as a district, we primarily offer ASL, French, and Spanish.
And Latin.
And Latin.
Yes.
Okay. I know Latin's available at FCCS because my kids went there, and that's part of why my kids went there. I took 3 years of Latin in high school myself, so I think it's a super important language. But where else do we offer Latin?
Brunswick High School
It does?
and
Okay.
Urbana High School.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Fantastic. But those are our 4 then, primarily.
Correct.
Okay. And so to follow up then, if kids at Leonora wanted to get Latin, they would have to, how would they even go about knowing that it's an option that they could ask for?
All of the options are in our course guide.
So but is it there like on their little checkbox when they go to?
And if they say that if they indicate an interest, working with their guidance counselors, and they say that this is what they would like to do, then we figure out a way that we can help our students access the coursework that they would like to access.
So I guess this goes to like, how do we measure student interest? So we're measuring student interest from the course offering guide, right?
From what they select on their course selections,
Okay.
but does it show, I guess I'm trying to think back to, it's been a while since we filled one out, but I think people are kind of seeing themselves as limited by what if there's 10 choices ahead of you and there's like an other, you know what I mean? You're gonna choose from the 10 choices, not necessarily the other.
You're spot on. Yeah, technically, it could be offered anywhere, technically. But it can certainly be buried in some of the processes. Because what happens is, when a school does get a course like that off the ground, the biggest recruitment tool is word of mouth. When kids have a good experience,
Yeah.
and then next year, well, who's taking
Everybody's
Latin?
excited about it.
It's just the getting it off the ground is usually the biggest challenge. But if there were enough students who put that down on their registration form, and that justified, a teaching position, the schools and us would do everything in our power to make sure it's offered in the school. If 2 or 3 kids sign up and it doesn't justify a teacher, then it's just hard to get it off the ground.
So if towards the end of the year, students said, I want to take Latin or ASL, and they know the course offering guides are coming up, that they could start encouraging their friends to make sure, because that was, I think, one of the letters or emails that we got.
I'm just thinking if
They
I
were
was filling
limiting
it out for
themselves
myself.
Because they didn't know what was available.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, I would look at that and think, okay, well, broadly, we offer Latin, but here's the choices I got, and I don't see Latin on my choices, so now I'm not gonna choose Latin, because I don't even know that I can select a Latin and then maybe not get it, and then you have that risk, too, because you make a choice, it could be barring you from another choice, and you might not get
All of the schedule pieces.
right,
of
and
it,
now you're
yeah.
stuck in something you don't like, so I mean, then the kids weigh that out and go whether or not I'm even gonna bother
Yes,
to ask
yeah,
for the
yeah.
thing, so I'm just trying to
Taking
get.
a risk assessment of doing that.
Right,
Yeah.
so, my other question is about, expanding our existing offerings into lower grades. I'm glad that we offer more consistently through middle school, but obviously, kids pick up language, particularly from the spoken level, much faster when they're exposed to it younger. So what can we do? What should we do so that we could start? That was one of the other reasons why I put my kids in FCCS. They started offering Spanish much earlier than other schools. So I think it's also, again, like very important to introduce this as early as possible. So is there something we can do, something from a board perspective, how we should push that? Is it even feasible?
I can address that.
Sure.
There, with Ms. Schlegel being with us since July, there have been a couple of big bodies of work that we have asked to really focus on. One is our current offerings and how do we expand language opportunities just even in what we currently offer, right, at the middle and the high school level. And what I mean by expand, I mean different languages. How do we kind of grow that? And so that we do understand that Spanish is very popular and it will remain popular, I'm sure. But what can we offer in other languages? So we're looking at that, and then we've had conversations about exactly what you just said, Ms. Brennan, is the importance of picking up a language at a younger age. And so how is that feasible? And we're at the very beginning, preliminary, looking into that. Do other LEAs do that? How would we schedule that in an elementary school day? Because there is so much of that day that is just, the minutes are very tight, and so how do we do that? We did have historically a language camp in the summer for elementary grades, and so we have, in the transition of our staff, paused that so that we can look at that and revamp that and maybe expand that in some type of way. And so we did offer that a couple of different times in the summer. So we're looking at opportunities and options that kind of look outside of the elementary day just because of what is required. But that is another big body of work that we're looking at. So we hear you and we actually agree.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of mandated time. I mean, you probably don't know this off the top of your head, but just in case you do, about how many hours or minutes of that elementary school day are already mandated? And how much do you actually have that's flexible for you to?
Which is why we need to look at
Yeah.
summer opportunities or after school or things like that. And so that is just, we're just dipping our toe into it because of a recent change in staffing, but then also wanting to look at the program comprehensively and expand opportunities for all of our students.
Well, the challenge too is that if you're not consistently teaching it, then, I mean, you end up teaching kids how to, count to 10, 40 times, as you don't actually have really gone to the next level. And I know that one of the challenges we had at FCCS was we did start teaching it young, and that was great, except then we got transfer students who did not have it. So now you brought in a fourth grade student who didn't have it since second grade, and now you got to teach that kid. So now, you're basically starting over as opposed to really making good progress. Like I would have loved it if when my kids left that they were at the high level of, you know, like a level 3 kind of, and they weren't in the end. And I think a lot of the changeover, a lot of the kids changing and all that other kind of stuff. I mean, that was my goal for them. Before I found myself in accounting, I actually was an international relations major, and I was at one point, I don't use it anymore, proficient in Spanish, German, and French, and so I think it's a huge thing. It's one of the reasons why I put my kids in that school, and so I feel like we're kind of missing the boat in, you know, trying to get that into our system, and I'd love to see that expanded.
The other thing in my head though about the difficulties.
Yeah, but that's a problem, you know, it's like we can offer it for summer, and that's great that we offer it, but like, by next summer, you're gonna be teaching those kids how to count to 10 again.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Trying to.
All challenges.
One of the things we can give you a preview on, it's not elementary, it is middle, but in a couple of years, we're gonna need to make a pretty significant shift to the middle school schedule.
Yeah, you are, yes.
Mainly because of the math policy and the 60 minutes a day, and we're gonna begin talking with the board pretty soon about, you know, what that means for a middle school schedule. But part of that work is gonna be around our elective offerings as well as world languages. And, you know, and one of those conversations is always beginning more systematically in grade 6, which we do not do right now. And then if you begin in grade 6, there are always opportunities to spread out the course a little bit longer and maybe do half of the course in 6th grade and half of the course in 7th grade. These are things that take major structural changes, and there'll be opportunities for us to consider all the above when we look at the middle school schedule.
Okay. And then when you're developing that and you're going through that whole process, are you able to get opportunities for community and parent and student feedback into those schedule changes as you're?
Yeah,
I'm sure that's coming.
That's coming.
It's gonna ramp up here in probably in the next 6 months or
Yeah.
so.
Oh, well, I'm excited, but I also, like, I get it, yeah. It's a big stress, it's like a, yeah. And actually, Jamie reminded me of a question I had from last night. I was thinking about ASL and how so many of our students, we see it kind of bridge, as another language, but also as an offering for some of our students who may have a difficulty, say, like with auditory processing, and so picking up Spanish is gonna be harder, but they move to ASL instead. But we are in a unique space here in Frederick County, and I don't know, has there been talk in the past or looking forward into ASL being more of a structured part of our curriculum in a sense? When we talk about even languages, learning languages in elementary school, sign language for babies and sign language for toddlers, right? That actually seems to be part of like almost something more parents are doing these days. So they're kind of coming with a little bit of that. But because of our just unique situation, we have Maryland School for the Deaf, and we have so many families here, and the way that that inclusivity piece too is how are our schools, you know, including the families of students who have, you know, family members who are deaf, and so making ASL just as common as like our Spanish. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does make sense, and I think that, you know,
Yeah.
If I had a magic wand, I would do all
Of
of
course, of course, of course, of course.
But no,
yeah.
and we
Yeah.
are in a unique situation where we
We are.
do have a great active community, and we have the Maryland School for the Deaf right here. And so that's why, you know, Ms. Schlegel and I are excited that those ASL numbers are holding strong, but we would like to see them grow. And so we do agree that it is important to continue to grow that. And so in terms of making it a part of our standard curriculum, world languages is an elective, and it's student-driven, and word of mouth is extremely important. So it is a priority to maintain and grow that program.
Okay, so I can almost see it as more of a almost extracurricular thing to a certain extent. And do we partner with the Maryland School for the Deaf at all in any kind of programming for us?
Currently, no.
Yeah, I mean, I know deaf culture is very different, but yeah.
So we have quite a few teachers of ASL in our county who are deaf, who are huge advocates for the success of our programs and continuing to grow the programs here in FCPS. I've had a few meetings with them recently, and we mentioned the Seal of Biliteracy. The only way to earn the Maryland Seal of Biliteracy in ASL was to take almost a $300 test, which was not equitable for our students. This year, the ASL Seal of Biliteracy approved assessment is $19.90, which is going to help increase students earning the Seal of Biliteracy in ASL, which I think in turn will help grow our programs. I think when we introduce our students to this Seal of Biliteracy and the systemic implementation of what the Seal of Biliteracy means, partnering with our local communities, our local businesses, the Chamber of Commerce, using our career coaches and CTC, ensuring that they understand what it means to be biliterate. If we approach it in that manner, I think we'll see growth in our programs as students start to really invest in what it means to be biliterate.
I didn't even think about that, the cost of that assessment being, only $300 seems wild. That's like, you know, what I would have to do for like an NCLEX or an MCAT or something. But are any of the other languages did they have an assessment cost that neared that, or is it 20, like? Or
The majority of our assessments that FCPS will be using are underneath that umbrella. We have a super language test that assesses languages that are lesser commonly taught languages. Is more expensive than the others, but the majority of the languages that we test our students in fall in that $20 range.
Typically, okay. And is there anything that we can do for a student that maybe doesn't have the means to even pay that? Like, we do this for like athletic fees and other things. Is there anything that we can do for that?
That is a great conversation that I think we will absolutely need to have in the future when we talk about systemic implementation of the SEAL and systematically testing our students for equitable access to this test. We will need to talk about funding, but I think that's a big conversation in the future.
State, MSDE advocacy.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you.
Okay.
And we really enjoyed that world languages presentation. I think we probably so.
Fun subject.
Yes, it is a fun subject. But I like this subject that's coming up too myself. I mean.
So now I'd like to introduce our health and PE team. I did make reference to some internal changes in our Department of Curriculum Instruction.
Yes, yeah.
This is another team that was impacted by those shifts and changes. It was that we had elementary health PE and secondary health PE underneath two different curriculum specialists. As a result of a retirement and an inability to rehire due to budget constraints, we now have a pre-K to 12 supervisor of health and physical education, which is Mr. Griffith, but we were able to get a teacher specialist, Ms. Jessica Valentine, who supports K to 12, and that combination actually has been a benefit in terms of aligning our work.
Yes, yeah, you need to see that development over the.
And it's been really helpful. This is a dynamic team, so I'm excited to introduce them to tee up our health and physical education updates for the year.
And I did want to mention before they get started, a couple weeks ago when we did the opt-out presentation.
yeah.
There were a
Some
lot
of
of
that's
questions
okay.
about health and about opt-outs, and just wanted to make sure, I don't know if you've seen yet that the state board did meet
I
yesterday.
did see that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It remains evolving.
Yeah. I'm waiting to see where, I didn't get a chance to read it thoroughly, so I'm waiting to see what they don't give, they never giveth without taking away. So if they're approving to 5th grade, they've done something else I'm sure I will not like, but yes, I did see that.
Just making sure.
All right. Over to you.
Good morning. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. Again, Brian Griffith, supervisor, but Jess Valentine. Jess has been with us for 15 months now and has hit the ground running, has done a fantastic job building relationships with the teachers. We've both been trying to understand the curricula that we don't have experience with, especially at the elementary level. In 31 years, I never taught elementary, so getting to learn that has been very interesting over the past year. But Jess, with her experience, has been able to help us out and really done a lot to support our teachers as we're moving forward. So I do want to thank her for doing everything that she's been doing this past 15 months. Well, this is just going to be a general update for our health and physical education information. Again, we're happy to take questions at the end and talk about health and the new state framework in our process as well. But starting off with health education, elementary health education, and again, I do want to thank Kathy and Scott for going over the opt-out information with you, providing that information. That is something that we do have to regularly remind our teachers, the procedures and the expectations as well for completing those opt-outs. We want to make sure that those opt-outs are conducted by the teachers in the schools, because that's who the parents, that's who the teachers, they're actually implementing it, not Jess and I. So we want to make sure that parents are talking to the teachers about what they're implementing. So that's why we do have those processes in place in order to support the opt-out and the parent preview opportunities. Again, we also have the Family Life Committee. The Family Life Committee will be meeting in a few weeks at our December meeting. They do review all of our Family Life materials as well. And then, of course, that material also goes to you in order for final review before it actually gets implemented in our buildings. As we said, there is that lesson preview for parents. We do expect 2 per year, one in the fall semester, one in the spring semester. Again, just giving parents a variety of opportunities. Virtually, in person, a lot of different opportunities that our parents have in order to make sure that they're communicating with the teachers. And then finally, as we all talked about earlier, the new state adoption. So we're going to be talking about that for health and for physical education. Both frameworks have been approved to be published, so we're just waiting for the physical education standards to be published, and then health was just done yesterday, so that'll be a little bit behind health education, and then we'll have to take a look at that as a system, how we move forward with aligning to the state framework as well.
Our secondary health, when we talk about middle school, 6th to 8th grade, they have 1 quarter of health, so our students are in the same schedule. One of their 4 terms, they go into the classroom with a health teacher. Some schools model, they have the same teacher for all year. They follow that teacher into the health classroom, and then they have PE for the other 3 terms. Some schools have a designated health teacher, so their kids would go to that health teacher and then come back to PE for their other 3 terms. In high school, we now have a 1.0 of health split with Health 1, Health 2. World Language, she mentioned the 0.5 that they can pair. Students can choose what they're pairing with that 0.5. A lot of different schools have different options, but we have in freshman year, the Health 1 has always been paired with the 0.5 of the Fitness for Life. That is also a requirement. With the Health 2, we started to brainstorm other options, and now our kids have more than just that 0.5. We have a partnership with FCC with the dual enrollment, Health 150, that meets the requirement. I'm sorry, I'm moving. We have virtual through the FCVS Health 2, that they could just take the 0.5 outside the VOS, the virtual outside of school, so they'll take it into it in addition. We see a lot of our students, like in the IBF program from Urbana, they don't have room in their daily schedule. The cosmetology students from CTC, it's a full day. So the students just don't have an opportunity in their daily 4-block schedule. So giving them ways to earn that credit without stressing them or their counselors.
And parents.
Typically, it's 11th grade. We do have some students that are taking it in 12th, but the 0.5, 11th grade or 12th grade is when we're seeing that on their schedule. I think I jumped ahead with the dual enrollment.
That's all good. It's all together anyway.
So again, sorry, the dual enrollment. And then we also have some schools that are kind of playing with that schedule on their own. So they're not doing the FCC, it's still the FCPS Health 2, but they're allowing the students to pair it with FCC, and they're following the FCPS curriculum. So it's the same model, they're just following the FCPS curriculum. New national standards, again, we can answer any questions about that. That was just yesterday. So we weren't sure.
If
delay the
or somebody else wanted to take a look at the new national standards, because they were curious, where would they find those?
So the national standards are posted on our Shape America, which is our national association. So that's where they are posted.
I'm just trying to link together all of these pieces to help myself.
What was done yesterday with the State Board of Education on the Maryland State Board of Ed website?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's the place you can go.
As of yesterday, or not there prior to yesterday.
No, so I know these websites have gotten so complicated to navigate. It's like, can we actually just include links in some of the things we do now so that it's easy?
Correct.
It is, because sometimes I'm going through and it's a lot. But there you go. Yes.
And then our health resources, we work with the multilingual learners. The Frederick High, we have a few schools that we offer a separate course, like a separate block with reinforcements. There's 5-6 adults in the classroom to make sure that those students are getting equitable access to the health curriculum. Our mental health resources, we have a lot of partnerships outside of FCPS. We have MOIs with different guest speakers coming in, speaking with our kids. The mental health resources, YRBS data shows us that we need to have, it's a big part of our curriculum, and obviously the SEL that we started to implement post-COVID links right in with the curriculum that we're able to reach all of our learners from pre-K to 12. The opt-out resources, obviously Dr. Gall and Dr. Murphy went over that with you, but we are, any questions, obviously we can answer those for you. We went through this past fall, and that was one of my, or no, I'm sorry, this past summer, it was one of my, I met with a couple, we actually just had some principals that moved up and are now not elementary principals anymore, directors. I went and spoke with them about what they were seeing in their schools and how their teachers are getting that information out to parents and just trying to make it more streamlined. Make sure that we are, if it doesn't matter what elementary school I'm going to, it should look the same for our opt-out. So the partnerships that I mentioned about some of the guest speakers are listed there, and we have some really strong presentations going on in our classrooms and a lot of good feedback from parents and students.
I would say your PTOs and PTAs and parent groups association can maybe be helpful to getting some of that information out too. Just FYI, I was just thinking about that. Okay, because you had mentioned something earlier where you're referring maybe to also the adaptive classes.
We're getting that in a minute.
Yeah, the rest of the presentation, it's going.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm talking about PE before
I was
we
gonna say, let's
Yeah.
get to the.
Do this first, okay.
Physical education, as you can see, our requirement in FCPS, schools are, some of them are 40 minutes, some are 45, some are 50. It depends on the schedule at each of the elementary schools, but the minimum is 80, split into twice a week. That our elementary students are seeing their PE teachers. 6th to 8th grade, as I mentioned, partnered with that one term of health. They have 3/4 of PE. And then high school, they have that 0.5 of Fitness for Life, and that's the only requirement of a PE class for all of high school. Everything else is an elective after that. We offer 14 different electives. Our unified physical education is a PE elective, but it's also leadership. We have our schools that we're partnering our specialized programs with our students that they're not taking it as a PE class to be active. We more gear it towards taking it as being that peer role model for the students in the specialized program. So it's listed under a leadership as well as like the PE elective.
And mentorship, it sounds like
Yes.
a lot. Yes, okay.
Our future work, just grading consistency. That's been a major focus for me. And again, as Dr. Gall said about the consistency, from one of the positives to the shift in the pre-K to 12 as opposed to separating elementary and secondary, seeing that grading consistency throughout or the lack of and what needs to be improved. Officiating certification, we have athletic coaching. 1 and 2 is an elective that's offered. If you pay any attention to our SCB athletics, officiating
Videos just the other day. Yeah.
officiating is a struggle. So, I mean, we've had contests be canceled because of lack of officiating, or our JV football games are traditionally on Wednesday nights, but there's not enough for every home game, so we have to shift some of them to Thursday. And so we are looking into
And a certification for that.
offering that certification.
And that we offer to high school students?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Interesting, yeah.
Trying to just get that, that interest, that involvement. And I think it's one of those things that it's, the earlier we start, because a lot of our students are into sports, but how many of them continue to play after high school? So ways to be involved, obviously a lot of them go into coaching, but adding that other, how can I stay involved in athletics if I'm not going to continue my, being an athlete after high school? And then exploring the new framework that we are about to receive.
One of the things with the officiating, again, they have to be 18 in order to officiate high school sports. So, but any of our students who do get certified can easily do it at the youth level. And so that's what we're trying to, and that's what we're hopefully planning on figuring out where that fits in at the high school level, trying to look at a few of our different electives that could fit in, and then supporting the schools and how they're moving that forward and trying to get those kids involved. And one of the funniest things is just how much money the kids actually see when they see some of these officials going to these weekend tournaments and things like that, putting a lot of cash in their pocket as well. So.
Two of my kids, the flag football, Parks and Rec flag football, a lot of my Tuscarora kids, they'd be like, Coach, I told you.
No, it's great.
It's better than we're gonna, I mean, not that they don't enjoy working at Chick-fil-A, but the retail and the fast food, like some of them.
Well, it's something they're interested in,
Yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
something they're interested in.
I was on our FCPS athletics web pages early, and the videos in there, and they talked about the difficulty in finding officiants and finding refs and everybody else, and just how a lot of it actually had to do with parents. You know, and parents not, we'll just say, not being kind or gracious towards ours, you know, and I've seen that in the club, you know, level as well. That's not just a public school athletics issue, it's actually been everywhere. But the officiating piece is also teaching sportsmanship. It's like, really, we have these rules for a reason, we're reinforcing, you know, yes, that's our opponent, but that's also, you know, a human being and a friend, probably.
Which aligns with our athletic coaching curriculum perfectly. It's
Yeah,
seamless fit.
good.
So, yeah, I think the adaptive PE is what we were.
Yeah.
And so this is just an overview of that, but we didn't mention it before, but we do have our inclusive physical education class at the middle school level as well. So that is an opportunity where students can be together in order to support, in order to make sure that all students are moving. It is grade level instruction as well, so it's not like we're making the course easier or anything. It is grade level instruction. We support, and all the students are coming together to work together. Typically, those students do travel together for that health class as well. They will stay together at the middle school level, so a little bit different. But this is just an overview of our adaptive physical education program. Luckily, we do have 2 teacher specialists, Emily Klauser and Liz Metz, and then we do have 3 itinerants that support our teachers as well. And so they, as you see here, they support all of our specialized programs, especially our pre-K and our inclusive pre-K classes, and then going back to that inclusive PE and that unified class at the high school as well. So those 3 itinerants and 2 teacher specialists do support pre-K to 12, all of our 48,000+ students, and over 200 PE teachers across our system as well. So a big lift for those teachers, for those 5 specialists that are working in those programs, but hopefully we are moving forward, and hopefully we'll get some more possibly as well.
Got to meet the Explorers program at FCC, which I thought was, I didn't see it on here, I was like, oh, well, it's an FCC program. Or no, I'm sorry, not FCC, CTC program, but for student, right? It's like workforce development piece of it. But I love the Special Olympics Young Athletes program, the stuff that we're doing with them, and going back to like your officiating and athletic coaching and mentoring opportunities with all of that. It's really special. You know, I think when folks think about PE, they're not thinking about all those other opportunities that PE has to offer beyond just it used to be every day, didn't it? It used to be every day, you know, just go to a PE class. Back in the
It's been
day.
a long time since
It wasn't way when I was
I graduated 30 years ago.
If I had Dr. Gall's magic wand.
I mean, I read a lot about how physical activity and its connection to academic success, proficiency, math learning, and everything else, and we keep, you know, carving away at physical activity because we're trying to make space for other things, and it's like,
I will
it's
say,
hard. It's difficult.
But I'm grateful for the work of this team, because there are quite a lot of electives that are available at the high school level, where students can choose, and they do choose, and so they have that opportunity to be active in different ways and learn different skill sets. So.
I'm big in elementary school, but yes, it's difficult. Yeah. Thank you so much.
And then the last thing we did want to
SHAPE.
recognize is, so SHAPE Maryland, Society of Health and Physical Education of Maryland, is the state affiliate of our national association. And we did want to recognize 3 of our teachers next Saturday are going to be receiving awards. So the Simon McNeely Award recognizes great teaching in health and physical education. And so we have Kelsey Horton of Waverly, Michael O'Brien from Tuscarora, and Thomas Stahl from Thurmont Elementary will all be recognized next Saturday. So they'll all be getting awards.
Where's the ceremony going to be?
Ocean City, Maryland.
Oh,
So.
We'll be,
that's why we didn't get the invitation.
we'll be visited individually. Kelsey actually just had a baby. He's 3 weeks postpartum, so she won't be making the
I
trip.
don't
So we'll
blame
go
her.
visit her, but.
Yeah, it's a little virtual, like.
All right.
And the same thing with Michael O'Brien. Unfortunately, he can't attend next
His
week,
son's
but
senior day at his son's a football player at Shenandoah. So his son's senior day and one was a good excuse.
we do, typically if teachers can't attend, we do try to recognize them at a staff meeting or something like that at their individual building. Their principals do give us a little bit of meeting time in order to do that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So they'll be recognized at some point.
Congratulations to them. Fantastic.
Thank you.
That.
Now I think we're ready for any questions that you
Go for it.
So just kind of talking about the health curriculum in general, what are we doing? I guess, there was a lot of kind of focus on MAHA, on health, on, from the idea of like looking at health through nutrition is food. What do we do? Do we have nutrition option classes like we would have for like a coaching class? Do we have options to kind of bring nutrition into our health curriculum?
That's actually, we just had a state meeting, and that was actually one of the conversations that we had at the state, was to try, we used to have nutrition as an elective option, and unfortunately, throughout the years, just because of enrollment and everything else, it was taken off. But there was a discussion at the state level that we could, so the state supervisors are going to sit together and talk about what would that look like, what would we be teaching and everything else. So obviously not this spring, we wouldn't bring that to you, but possibly next spring we might have an elective on nutrition. It's one of the ones that the state is trying to push.
Noted, we agree.
Yeah.
And just, I'm thinking how we talk about trying to get our industry certifications and things like that, like that could be one of our pathways to get, there's a lot of interest now on that. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that you guys are looking at that. To kind of circle back on our opt-outs. So one of the things that I took away from our discussion was the lack of consistency over our opt-out procedures. That they do tend to be a little bit, by school, as far as the particular family life curriculum side of things. And you said that you are trying to standardize that a little bit, make sure that that's.
There's been a best practice document created.
Yeah, there's opt-outs at every single school for every single class. The thing that is being standardized is the form, it looks the same, it's on the website, that it's.
That's what I'm
all-
talking about. Yes, I know we have it,
Yeah,
but.
so it's just making sure that it is front and center for parents, so that they've got that at their fingertips. But the parent preview, all of that, it happens every single time. It's just making sure that all the forms look the same, just because it's easier for parents. If it's all the
And
same.
parents are all talking to one another, so if
Yeah.
it looks different at one school than it does
Exactly,
here.
yeah.
They start to
Yeah.
wonder,
Yeah,
what's
so
going on?
But some people get them like via like a find out first or via an email from the teacher, or they're, you know what I mean? And they're not, and it's like, well, if you miss it, then your kid had the class. Because we don't have an opt-in, we have an opt-out. So if you are not keeping up on that, if your emails go to spam, whatever, now you didn't have that. So, and there has not consistently been a way. Like, for instance, my kids are all big now, but I know for a fact that I would opt them out of a lot of the family life instruction now. And so I would just like to be able to know how to go and just opt them out. Like, we're not gonna talk, like, it's not, it's not even a option point, like, I'm opting you out, right? So,
What's happening throughout the year?
no,
just
I
like
know,
that,
yeah,
you
just
can
like
do it one time.
ways that we know, so you can go find it on the website. When you think about it, like, I don't want to miss that email. I missed an email when it was actually still opt-in for my son, and it came on a Thursday, and they were
Yeah.
teaching it on Tuesday.
That's the other
Right, I
thing.
mean,
You know what I mean? And I got the email on Tuesday. Now, they didn't give it to him, and I would have opted him out. I would have said no, so I was glad that they followed their own protocol, but I'm just saying that, like, it was 5 days' notice, and, and.
And the other thing that we've been doing, again, there has been a standard, but we've been trying to make sure that everybody's following it. The other thing is we've been updating the websites, and we want to make sure that the websites and all that information can be found on the public-facing website as well. And all that stuff is there, and we are trying to clean that up and make it better for parents and easier to access, because again, we don't want it hidden. It shouldn't be hidden. Parents should be able to find it. You can also look for a form. There is opt-out forms. There's a generic form in our form database as well. So there is a form that parents can access and fill that out and send that in. It's a generic form that opts their student out of Family Life as well. So there are multiple options for parents.
Yeah.
And they can always reach out to Jess and I to have that conversation as well.
Okay, that's
Like,
good.
I had a virtual student that, before class even started, mom had got on the FCPS website, filled it out, and sent it to me before the class even started. Like, it's
She
there.
was able to find it and do all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
proactively.
yeah.
I mean, there is gonna be, like, nothing's gonna be 100%, right?
No,
But we
no,
wanna
that's
close
fine.
the
I'm just
gap.
trying
We're
to,
gonna
I'm
close
just trying to
those
find
gaps,
out what
yeah.
they are, so we can
Yeah.
kind of talk about it. And so now, obviously, that's been identified, because you guys are working on it.
Like, it's hard to, like.
So,
But I also think this goes back to why it's like, can we add links to some of these presentations so that if someone is struggling, it's like, go back to that PowerPoint, it's right there.
I'm glad that we're making,
Yeah.
I never meant to, sometimes I think, because I'm pretty passionate about certain things, so
Oh, sure.
I want to make sure that I don't come off like accusatory.
Yeah.
But I just want trying to make sure that we, that we're responding to, our public and our family and things like
I
that.
would say you have not come across that way. It's been very collaborative and always with a focus on improvement, and I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
The communication thing is hard, like trying to figure out where to put things and how to present it, because even if you have it on the website, is it visible? How big is the font? Is it something, it's easy to read?
Times
Or is it
parents are so
fun?
busy, so not just one, it's multiple
Yes.
attempts to
It is
communicate,
hard.
which we've all done, so I think.
It's hard for some of us to think about, but there are, a lot of families who are still really not they're not particularly technical. We use technology every day, all day, but there are a lot of families who do not ever, don't have a computer at home. Your parents, they might have a smartphone, but they don't use it for any,
Also,
you know what I
it's
mean,
not a
in the
great
same way.
interface for a lot
No,
of
I
these
mean, all that
things
stuff
either,
is
too.
terrible on your phone. I hate that, but just, in general, like, they're not, so just trying to make sure that we have a way, but it's a lot easier. They can navigate the internet. So if you're like, hey, here are the places you have to go, but they're not necessarily, as up
all the
on,
reasons.
sneaking it
All
out. So
the
that's fine.
reasons, yeah.
And the other thing I think we did talk about briefly in the opt-out presentation, which I did kind of want to circle back to, but it has something to do with this, is the Family Life K through 4. We should or should not, we should or should not have an opt-out for that.
There's always an
There's
opt-out.
opt-out pre-K to 12.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what grade, there's an opt-out.
There's an opt-out, okay, and that information's available, and we can use the same form links and all our stuff, okay, perfect.
Yeah. There's all of that. And then, circle back real quick, Fitness for Life doesn't include nutrition, so I guess the nutrition conversation made me think about this.
So health education, it does a little bit, but health education is where nutrition should be. We only
In middle school
have,
and high school.
yeah.
Yeah.
It- Fitness for Life is 45 days. And it's only a half credit. So we want those kids moving. We want that goal of physical literacy. How do you move and how do you move for a lifetime?
Well, and this has been an issue in medicine, that nutrition doesn't feature more prominently when you're becoming a physician or becoming a nurse, and it actually just became sort of like a sideline, right? You can be a nutritionist, but you talk about diabetes, you talk about autoimmune diseases that require like monitoring your inflammation, cardiovascular disease. All of these things have a nutrition component. Some nutrition, it doesn't solve everything though, but we don't want it to work against us, essentially, if we can teach it. Yeah, that's hard. Okay, I just wanted to
Thank you all
clarify.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Murphy to go through our final agenda item, which is updates to.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Now I understand better why these three were all together, because it's all part of these very big course updates to those two programs. All right. I was wondering, like, how did these come together?
We try to do this every fall. Side updates.
Yes.
Well, that's right around the time that we're updating the physical.
Yes, absolutely. Which makes sense,
And that's what we will use to choose from in the spring when students make their course selections. Okay.
Which is actually going to start pretty soon, which is why this presentation comes to you in November. Yes, alongside some of the elective conversations that we've had, but as you know, board policy All new courses need to be approved by the board, so what we do is bring them here first, either in November or in March, and then they go to the full board after we have the conversation here. This is the time of year where we publish the course guide for the following school year. We usually publish it by Thanksgiving, and there are some new courses that are in the course guide, most of which the board has already previously approved, but because they're appearing in our course guide for the first time, we like to bring them here. So, I'm just going to summarize those real quick for middle and high school, and first is middle school. The most significant thing happening in middle school has to do with math acceleration. Prior to the last couple of years, math acceleration towards algebra and geometry for high school credit really had been limited since COVID to the virtual course in 8th grade. And so we know we have lots of students who are ready for algebra in 7th grade, so we changed that. And this is now a cohort of kids who are moving through middle school, currently taking grade 7 for the full year, and then starting next year, those students will be able to take full year in-person geometry in their local middle school. So that will be appearing in the course guide for the first time. This has also been previously discussed as, going back to when those students started in 6th grade, but we just wanted to draw attention to it.
So we can see what it's going to look like next year versus, because I think in your PowerPoint, there's also what it looks like now versus where it's going to be going into.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back next year
Yeah.
because the new Maryland math policy is calling for additional changes to algebra with integrated courses. So this will be an ongoing conversation here and with the board about math acceleration.
Can you
But
tell them to pause for a second, like to just let us catch up to all of it? Yeah, I see that face.
But this is what our students need right now, and
Yes.
geometry will be in the course guide for grade 8.
Okay.
The other thing, and you've asked about this too, is also about other opportunities in middle school for high school credit. And one of the conversations we're having right now is about computer science and engineering courses for high school credit at the middle school level. Because of the middle school schedule change that I referenced earlier, we're probably not ready to roll this out next year. Probably the following year is when we will introduce students having the ability to take computer science or engineering for their graduation requirement. So they walk into high school with that graduation requirement checked off, opening up other options in their schedule. So that's coming, that we're just introducing the conversation now. The other thing that is coming is a shift in the social studies curriculum in grades 6 and 7. This we did bring to the C&I committee in March, but this is now appearing in the course guide for the first time, so I just wanted to draw attention to it. At the high school level, it's really in the elective and CT areas. We're changing a title. It's really more technical, so it's more attractive to students. For forensics and debate, they don't know what that is, so we're changing it to public speaking.
There seems to be a focus on debate in the description, but then it will say like poetry and prose, and I'm like, that's a little different. So I was a little confused by the description, but public speaking, yes.
And we are really excited about the new CTE.
I'm excited about that too.
We have the AOPA right here in Frederick, national organization, and we need to do this, so we're really excited about that, which will also be, this full pathway will now be published for students.
Very cool. As a current pathway. And
So to math, I'm assuming this is true, but they're moving algebra and geometry down to 7th and 8th grade, that is high school credit, right?
Yes, it is.
And so then the kids in high school would either need to go all the way through calc probably to get to the 4, they have to take a math every year of high school, right?
Yes.
So even though they're gonna get there too early, they still have to have.
Take 4 years, and all the way through typically an AP course, statistics, calculus, sometimes both, and of course dual enrollment.
yeah,
Okay,
I know
they
how
can
I
take
feel about
those,
that.
they
I
can
wish
get
we
the
could
advantage of that and dual
parallel
enrollment.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed, it seems you really got to look at middle school and how much you can get done in middle school to really have more opportunities, in high school, whether it's math electives like statistics and I still feel strongly, like I wish MSD would really try and parallel those two math streams, but they're not.
I wish they would max out on a minimum math you
Yeah.
had to get to, and then after that,
just say no, be
decide
done.
what you could do, but.
Yeah.
And I think the problem with middle school is it's such a weird time because some kids are so able to move forward and deal at the high school level, and some of them are still elementary kids. And there are elementary
Right?
kids all the way until they go into high school, and it's just
Yeah.
such a weird,
I think some of them did that into adulthood too.
yeah, that's true, but it's just such a weird mix of trying to, you don't want to
Yeah.
overburden them, but you want to give them the opportunity to stretch themselves and
And also
you know.
that lifelong learning piece, like getting them so that they're excited about something, and it can be difficult when it seems like it's the core curriculum, just trying to get that as much as we can, and it's, where's the spaces where they can really, their own personality, their own interests can kind of help hook into that. I know we do that with band, and we kind of rely on some of those things, but that's not always an option for a lot of, you know, our
How do we
sports or whatever.
decide who's eligible for
Yeah.
that Algebra 1? And obviously, like, Algebra 1, I'm assuming, just like high school, is a prerequisite for geometry typically. So we're gonna, how do we identify those students eligible for the algebra? Because at some point, they had to have been probably progressing a little bit ahead of the kids.
So, yes, and what I always say to parents and educators, kids are ready for algebra at different times.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 7th grade, sometimes it's 8th, and sometimes it's 9th. The kids who are ready for algebra in 7th grade really are an accelerated cohort of students, typically identified in 4th grade,
Okay, that's where.
showing potential.
Kids,
And they
okay.
have basically an accelerated course in 5th grade and 6th grade to be ready for algebra in 7th. So it really takes, typically, now kids come out of the woodwork, obviously, and you give them access, but most commonly they're identified in 4th grade and start acceleration in 5th to go to algebra in 7th grade. To go to algebra in 8th, there's a lot more ability for on-ramps to that. You could start in a grade level curriculum and finish elementary school at grade 5, the standard curriculum, but then begin some acceleration in 6th and 7th grade to get to algebra in 8th, not as compacted or accelerated. That is typically an identification process that would happen between 5th and 6th, not 4th and 5th. But when it comes to math acceleration, this idea of different access points, and on-ramps we call them, is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, you have kids that will just like be mature overnight and all of a sudden it clicks and now they're great at something and
Punctuated equilibrium.
you just have, but then they're, they're ready to move on, and then you have some kids who are really ready, but they can't necessarily take the pressure of it being accelerated and feeling that, and that doesn't work for them either, so, I do think you kind of need to get to them as early as possible, so to identify if that's the path that the families think is the best, because they're gonna know their child's ability to deal with stress or to deal with, out of school challenges on their time. So, do we rely on anything, do we have any benchmarks for that as far as like where these students are performing on the standardized tests that we give? Is it all observation? Do we have any objective criteria for that where we kind of say, like, if you're scoring at, X and above, we think this is a good barometer?
Absolutely. And Dr. Vetter, feel free to jump in, but we have many assessments, as you know, that happen throughout elementary school. One of them is called the COGAT, which assesses for gifted and talented, that we universally use that as a screener. With the state assessment data and the other local diagnostic assessment data, we actually compile all that together, and it identifies students who we see centrally with potential. That's then handed to schools already kind of flagged based on those multiple measures, and then schools take it from there in terms of identifying other kids who they're seeing with potential. But we really have such robust data at our fingertips that the kids jump out pretty quickly.
And the gifted and talented is not the same as necessarily as a highly able learners. And I think sometimes that's difficult for parents to, I don't know if that's because how that came into the scene in education so many years ago, that acronym or whatever, but it is a very different sort of pathway, the gifted and talented versus like the highly able learner. So
That's why we emphasize multiple measures. It's never one single thing. It doesn't require a label of being gifted and talented.
Yeah.
That may be one factor, but there may be other areas of potential or
gifted and talented come with like a
Advanced,
talent.
advanced performance that we see in other ways, not necessarily being identified and gifted and talented. So that's a really strong message we send to our schools in this identification process.
Yeah, it's, the labels are just really there for just us behind the scenes. We don't need to be, yeah.
And again, the idea of an on-ramp in sixth grade, you might not have been identified for acceleration in
Yeah.
elementary school, but, the idea that that can begin in grade 6 is also something that's really important.
Yes. Yeah, that was, in evolutionary biology, we were talking about punctuated equilibrium. So you'd have evolution doesn't just, it seems kind of slow, then suddenly you have this big burst. And kids do that too. They're kind of trucking along and then suddenly they have a huge developmental milestone in like a month. You're like, what happened to my kid?
Grow 6 inches over the summer.
Right, exactly. Whatever it is.
If I could just add one thing, I think it's important. One of our key indicators at the middle school is the number of students getting advanced coursework. We monitor that and we encourage talent spotting. Because some of these multiple measures are not necessarily in middle school level always accurate, because you might have a kid that speeds through something and doesn't want to take the time. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important piece. It's a conversation we have a lot, is talent spotting. And we track how many kids are, and we have a steady progression. We, obviously, we're not going to get every kid in an advanced course, but we definitely want to encourage the rigor, and we want to encourage that perseverance. And that's what the kind of things that we see that would say to a kid that maybe on multiple measures is a good person to try this accelerated pathway.
Yeah.
The other two things, 6th and 7th grade, are really the time period in which that happens in math.
Yeah.
Once you get on the train into algebra, geometry, the pathways start to get less accelerated, right? So 6th and 7th grade, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade are critical time periods. So just throw that in.
No, that's really good. Because 11 to 14 developmentally, there's a lot happening. And it's happening at all the different times,
And
right?
the other courses, the pathways, it's math that is like the
Yeah.
path, but the other courses, there are other entries into high school, et cetera. But math in particular is 5th, 6th, and 7th are key years.
Well, it builds upon each other more so than almost anything else. So, you have to, and losing out a good base on one place,
Yes,
definitely. My daughter always struggled with math, and then she had 4th and 5th grade COVID time, and that was not, the.
Oh, that did help.
So, so when she came back, and now we're in, 7th, 8th, we went to tutoring for a couple years to kind of replace what we didn't get, fill those holes, and now we don't have any problems. So, but it's, it's challenging. But it's also one of those areas where kids who are naturally excelling in it don't necessarily have a lot of patience with the kids who are not, they feel very held back by the kids who are not naturally excelling in it, so.
I was trying to tell my kid to slow down. That was, they're getting the C's and stuff.
Any other questions?
No, I think we're good.
I think
Just
now
a
we're
couple matters of procedure.
moving on
These
to.
new courses, you have a backup document that's on a one-pager. That'll come to the full board for approval.
Okay.
Next few meetings.
Yeah, that was a good one, actually.
And then next meeting, believe it or not, we will see you next in January after the holidays.
Oh, yeah. I mean, November, you get to the end of November, December, it all flies by.
Yeah.
Not much left.
So that presentation will focus squarely on English language arts and elementary literacy.
Okay.
Excellent.
And then we'll be getting into that science of reading kind of stuff, that integrated, yeah, okay. Oh, that is.
Thank you very much, really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
We are adjourned.
Yes, it is 11:18 and we are adjourned. There we go.